you're paying for and I'm paying for and are all paying for, and that is the rising gas prices. The president released some of the reserves. That sounds like maybe we'll get some relief. According to our director of policy, Professor Harry Hutchison, that is not going to get us the relief, but it is going to deplete our reserves.
World energy prices are determined by a forecast of where prices will be. So, for instance, the president has announced that he is releasing 1 million barrels per day. But he's also announced that that will stop in 180 days. Well, the market will adjust to that.
180 million barrels of oil total would leave the already depleted reserves down to around 388 million barrels, which will be the lowest level since, ready for this one? March of 1984.
We get double hit as the consumer. I have to go to and pay higher prices at the gas station, but I also have to now pay higher prices for goods and services that truck drivers are having to pay higher prices for. So,
Harry, what would have been the right, obviously, the Keystone Pipeline, things like this, what would have been the right answer here?
The right answer would be never give up U.S. energy independence, which is what we had in 2020.
This is a political solution in search of finding a way to get out of a economic problem that he created. He created it by shutting down American energy, not just the drillers and the people producing the energy, but the pipelines to move it around the world, the folks who can export it. It's a massive national security problem, and it's not going to solve the problem. The whole world can see that this is temporary. They can see that he did it for 6 months between here and the election. This is not a solution to what families are suffering from.
Blaming all of this on Vladimir Putin is ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. We went from energy independence to energy dependence in 18 months. And then, unfortunately, we had an intervening war in Eastern Europe, which just exasperated an already ridiculous policy move. Closing down the Keystone Pipeline, but they approved the Nord Stream pipeline to Germany from Russia? That's like having Russia as your negotiating partner in Iran. Who would do that? Oh, Joe Biden would.
It only contributes to a roughly 5% of U.S. petroleum consumption. So at the end of the day, the market realizes that this is a temporary fix. And guess what? The Strategic Petroleum Reserve does not contain unlimited amounts of energy. So The Strategic Petroleum Reserve will be drawn down to around 388 barrels. And that would mean that it will take another 7 years to fill it back up.
Which really puts us in jeopardy.
Absolutely.
You get another tyrant in Eastern Europe or in the Middle East, and we're back in disaster zone.
We should be producing gasoline and oil, not buying, not dipping from our emergency reserves. We have the ability to produce it, and that helps us in a million ways.
So it makes no sense.
Politics.
I don't pay for it out of my pocket per se.
But
it does affect my ESOP.
Sure.
Employee stock option program. These guys, I mean, they're taking such a hit. There's a lot of them that are parking their trucks.
You just said something fascinating, and that is you're a company driver, but you have an employee stock option plan, which means you can get stock in your company. But if it's more expensive to operate that company, and CC, you're a corporate lawyer, that stock is worth less, and it's worth less to those employees buying it.
Right. It's not just going to the gas pump and having to pay more there. You're going to lose investments. You know, your investments are going to go down. You're going to have to pay more for the food that Dan is driving. You're going to have to pay more for that.
This is really affecting the pocketbooks of the American family. This is a family issue at this point. And I'm trying to think to myself, how did we as a country go from energy independence, where we were actually exporting energy when you served the previous administration, to a situation where we are dependent upon imports and now having to hit our strategic reserves?
We were for every form of affordable energy. We wanted to let the market drive the outcomes. We wanted people who had windmills and solar panels to be successful. We wanted folks who were producing fossil fuel, the most affordable energy on the planet, to be able to be successful. This administration took a complete 180-degree turn from that. The president says he wants people to drill on federal lands, but then he's telling the folks who would provide them the capital to do that, nope, you got to comply with a set of environmental rules that are just crazy.
You've got the expense part, and then you've got the no plan policy going forward.
That is basically, in a microcosm, the Biden administration in a nutshell.
Yep.
They don't seem to think 2 or 3 steps ahead.
Elections have consequences. Policy choices The president is a policy maker. That's the office of the presidency. He has that role as chief executive. And these are the policies he's putting in place. This is what he wants to do.